Now you've looked at the location of a stand in relationship to a suburb. Now it's time to begin to look at the stand you are going to build on and the things that you need to consider. So there you are. On one hand, you've got your requirements. You know what you want to have on the stand, meaning the number of bedrooms you want, type of kitchen, and things like that. But then now it's time to begin to look for a designer who will incorporate your requirements and see whether those components will fit comfortably on the stand. He also will begin to look at what would call orientation, site orientation, which direction of the house will be best suited. For example, in the southern hemisphere, a home that is south-facing would be cooler or colder than that which is north-facing. And you realize that, if it's really necessary for you to build a house facing south, due to the fact that the view is to the south, then you begin to look at methods that would incorporate that situation. For example, you begin to look at heating methods. Should you consider underfloor heating? Should you consider air conditioning? Heating in a nutshell, are you going to include things like fireplace and things like that? But also even skylight system in particular appropriate areas. So your designer begin to incorporate all those things. But then also you begin to look at other components that could affect your budget. These are important factors pertaining to the stand, and that could really significantly affect the cost of the project. And these things are the slope of the land, the type of soil that the stand has. Is it clay soil? Is it meshy soil? Is it rocky soil? And things like that. Is a place in proximity to a river? Does the site have dense foliage? Things like that. So let's begin to look at those components one by one. Let's take, for example, the slope of land. The stand with a stepping which is inclined can have a spectacular view. It can have a very beautiful view if things are done right, if the designs are done right. But provision in the budget will have to be made, because then you begin to face things like cutting and filling, the splitting of levels, all those things. They would incur costs in that you will then have to do greater excavations, but also you then have to increase the amount of materials. You have to increase labor force. You have to increase or consider having retaining walls, which would also include you designing things like a garden. But then also not forgetting things like a drainage system, which could really pose a problem, and also things like soil erosion. But the good thing is with the kind of knowledge that you have, and then you bring in professionals to help. Professionals have a way of making things work better and easier for you. So surround yourself with good professionals. This reminds me of the one client who came to me, and he seemed to be quite really upset. He came complaining how what had happened was he got to buy a stand off plan. He went to the local authorities, and they could point, oh, this is worth so much, that is so much, and they could point to his stand, which seemed to be quite cheaper than the rest. So he quickly bought without even going to see the stand. So at the time now he gets to be shown his stand, and he was quite disappointed, and his mind quickly went to a place where he begins to blame the officials. And these officials, they are very corrupt. How can they sell me a stand on a hill? How can they expect me to build on a hill? And you could see he was really quite disappointed. So we got some time, and I visited the site, and I could see, I told him, look, this place is not bad. In fact, we will have a very good and spectacular view here. And really, in fact, you will have the most unique homes around here. You have the only unique house in relation to the rest around here. And I could see he regained some smile, he smiled a bit. And bottom line is, I was able to bring hope to what he had bought. And so bottom line is, with the right professionals, they'll make things easier for you. So that's on the steep slope piece of land. Then the second type of land is that which is near a river. Those conditions you face at a place or a stand that is near a river is that you have extreme temperatures, in that during summer seasons it becomes extremely hot, and during winter season it becomes extremely cold, and also there's a chance of experiencing a flood here and there. But then you want to go into buying a stand with that in mind, with that kind of knowledge at the back of your head. And then you also have the clay and meshy type of soil. This will really have a direct bearing on your costs, especially when you are establishing your garden, but also really on building your home. The cost could really go high. But then with this type of soil, you definitely need an engineer. You bring in an engineer, he designs foundations that will accommodate or withstand in that kind of conditions. So you want to bring in an engineer. And then you also have rocky terrain or rocky terrain. usually this is firmer and more stronger and harder than meshy and clay soil. But they impose a different kind of challenge in that you then incur excavation costs, you incur blasting costs, you blast the rock, but also after you excavate, you would need to import soil that is required. So those are the things you need to take into account. And then also you have a dense foliage on site. Dense foliage on your site can be very beautiful, but they tend to inhabit sunlight, and the cost of removing the trees and excess foliage can be encouraged. So when you get equipped with the right building information, you can use it as leverage to negotiate your purchase price. You can easily sit and show the seller, say, "Hey, Madam Seller or Mr. Seller, your land has got such and such. I will need extra cost on blasting. I will need extra cost on excavation, and so on and so forth." And if the seller is serious to sell, and he can see reason, he will definitely hear you and negotiate with you. But if he's not, well, it is wise to rather let it go, because if logic and has told you this is what you are likely to face, and your budget is such and such, at times it's just reasonable to let go the deal. Otherwise, why buy something which at the end of the day comes and cripples you? And also secondly, don't compete with people who don't have that same kind of knowledge that you have. If somebody who doesn't have the knowledge is so desperate and they want to go and buy, well, let them buy and let them go and learn the hard way. But as for you, you can just move on to searching the next stand until you get the right one that meets your need and is going to be within your budget.